This is a Transportation TV News update. I'm Tony Dorsey reporting. Good news this week for roughly 2,000 Federal Highway Administration workers who were furloughed during the two-day March shutdown of the Federal Highway Trust Fund, which pays for highway and transit programs. On Thursday, President Barack Obama signed H.R. 4851, the Continuing Extensions Act, restoring the back pay. In a statement, Representative James Oberstar, Democrat from Minnesota, chairman of the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, said, "During these tough economic times, this sudden reduction in pay is particularly painful. Restoring the lost pay is the right thing to do." While the overall number of fatalities dropped to a record low in 2009, the nation's highways can still be made a lot safer, says Michigan Department of Transportation Director Kirk Steudle. Steudle, chairman of AASHTO's Standing Committee on Highway Traffic Safety, told the Senate Envronment and Public Works Committee Wednesday a national plan is needed to cut that number of traffic deaths in half over the next 2 decades, one of AASHTO's top priorities.
If we have a safety focus on everything that we do, and we concentrate on the pieces that we already have in place, we can get to this reduced fatality goal. It's going to take all the tools in the toolbox. There is no silver bullet. It's going to take all of them.
Steudle outlined 8 AASHTO recommendations for improving highway safety. See the complete list at www.transportation.org. Director Steudle wasn't the only State Department of Transportation CEO in Washington this week. Missouri DOT Director Pete Rahn here to meet with staff members in the House and the Senate.
The opportunity for AASHTO to be meeting with the staff of the House T&I Committee plus the Senate EPW Committee to talk about the structure of performance measures, how they should be utilized, what we're trying to achieve with them, is really, I think, some valuable time.
Ron, who has used performance measures and management with great success in Missouri, says they have to be used correctly.
Performance measures as a hammer can do more damage than good. And so the message that we have to deliver today is that this is really a very fine instrument that has to be used correctly. And if it is, I think Congress will be satisfied with the results in the future, as well as the taxpayers in our home states.
Transportation TV will be right back after this message.
700 people were killed in work zone-related crashes in 2009. One moment of distraction, a life lost forever.
There are families, and there are families that are changed forever as a result of this. We ask people to drive safely in work zones. This doesn't need to happen.
A highway worker, Lori Moser's husband, died in 2007. Work zones need our undivided attention. National Work Zone Awareness Week is April 19th through the 23rd.
In other news, the Federal Railroad Administration is now accepting grant applications for the deployment of positive train control, PTC, collision avoidance systems, and complementary advanced technologies under a new $50 million rail safety technology program. The filing deadline is July 1st, 2010. Selection announcements will be made on or about September 3rd, 2010. It's been 2.5 months since the President and Vice President announced that 31 states would receive a portion of $8 billion in grants from the FRA for high-speed and intercity passenger rail projects. AASHTO's spokesperson for high-speed rail, Gene Conti, Secretary of the North Carolina DOT and Chair of AASHTO's Standing Committee on Rail Transportation, says states will begin receiving those funds soon.
You know, if you think about this compared to the recovery program for highways and transit, you know, those programs, the money flowed through existing programs that people were very familiar with, but it still took a year to get all that money committed. Here, you've got a program that's really brand new to most of us, even though we've done some work in North Carolina, but it's new to the Federal Railroad Administration, and it's new to a lot of the states, and so we're going to take our time and do it right, but we're going to move forward as we can aggressively.
This is an unprecedented effort, and Conti says charting new ground takes time. Still, he's very optimistic about the progress being made and the jobs that lie ahead as North Carolina begins receiving the $500 million in grants. his state will receive for passenger rail projects.
It's going to make a big difference. We're going to reduce our travel times between Raleigh and Charlotte from about 3 hours now to about 2 hours and 15 minutes. We're going to add a third service this June, probably a fourth service in the late 2011, early 2012. We have a big project in downtown Charlotte to create an intermodal center around the intercity concept. So it's all very good stuff, and we're anxious to get it started and get it done.
In other news, the U.S. Treasury Department reports that state and local governments have issued more than 1,000 separate Build America bonds in 48 states, supporting $90 billion in financing for new transportation and other capital infrastructure projects, which in turn create jobs. The bonds issued through a program created by the Economic Recovery Act have saved the states and local governments issuing them more than $12 billion in borrowing costs. That's the Transportation News Update. I'm Tony Dorsey reporting.